Two Guys Garage. As you can see, we've got a killer 69 Camaro in the shop today.
Yeah, man, you gotta love it when it has an LS under the hood and a 6-speed transmission backing it up, but this little girl has a couple problems.
Yeah, it's running a little bit rough, so we're gonna tune this sucker up and we're gonna strip the bottom off, completely upgrade the suspension. It's gonna be fun. You guys stick around. All right, I've got a good indication of what our tuning problems are on this engine. Now, Willie fired it up. I ran around with my laser pyrometer. It's a temperature gauge, and I could shoot it at each of the headers, and I could watch the temperatures rise, except when I came around to number 2, I didn't see the temperature rise, so that's probably our dead cylinder.
Well, he's a cylinder sensei, if you will, so he actually knew and guessed it was number 2.
I could hear the exhaust tone. I'm like, 1, 2, no, I think it's 2.
Now look, if you don't have a pyrometer, another way to do it is just take a bottle, right? Put a little hole in the cap and you squirt the header. And that way, if it sizzles, you know you got a firing cylinder. If it doesn't, it just runs off the header. You know there's no heat in there, right?
It's just a quick way to kind of get you to the root of the problem, or at least the right direction.
Right, and here's another cool little gadget. Now this is gonna be a plug wire checker. This thing is awesome, right? It has a lot more resistance than say a normal spark plug does inside the cylinder.
Yeah, so what we can do is we'll plug it into number 1, because that one seemed like it was heating up fine. And we'll plug it in number 1, and like you said, it's got a higher resistance in it, because in the cylinder, you can put a good spark plug, a good electrical system that will say like fire outside the cylinder. But once you've got it compressed and you've got air and fuel, you've got extra resistance between the ground and the strap, it might not fire in there. And so just pulling the spark plug out and checking it outside won't necessarily tell you if it's good, especially if it's a misfire versus something completely dead. All right, fire it up. All right, so we've got spark. We know number 1 is good, which we thought, but it shows you what you're looking for. Now let's switch it over to number 2. All right. Yeah, no, I don't see anything. You can turn it off. Now we've confirmed. Yeah. Number 2 is dead. Now, we don't know exactly what. Could be the plug, the wire, the coil. Okay. And what we can do is start swapping like a plug wire from a good cylinder to the bad cylinder and kind of figure out which one of those it is. Okay. But you know what? We've got good friends at AC Delco. We like Andre a lot, so we're gonna hook them up with a lot of stuff. So let's get some parts, let's get some tools. We'll start cleaning house.
All right, so Kev's out doing a parts run. I'm pulling the rest of these coils off. We're gonna get this LS1 firing the way it did right from the factory. We got all kinds of great OE replacement parts. See, AC Delco was the OE guys for General Motors. So anytime you got an LS1, any sort of General Motors platform, you got AC Delco stuff on it, and you come with a big box of goodies.
I do, man, but 2 coils, that's it?
Well, I had some other tricks I'm gonna show you too. It's pretty cool.
All right. You better step it up. We got wires, man. We got new plugs right here. Yep, and we got all 8 coils. So we are ready to get this sucker back to original from the factory performance. Oh, if I don't spill them. Yeah. There we go. All right. So explain to me what you were doing that you weren't doing what I thought you were doing.
Yeah. I'll show you what I was doing. So I found all these factory wires, and this is inductive. Let me show you why. A lot of wires would just be one little piece, right? Yeah. Well, these things, I cut some of the insulation off. This is the original insulation. Inside that was some more insulation. Yeah. All right, but check out this, right? So you're sitting here on this wire. You can see this inductive, it's just rolled wire. Look at that.
It's like a sweater.
It's like a cartoon on a sweater. Watch it disappear, watch it disappear, watch it disappear.
Cool.
That's
a little bit of trivia for you guys at home. Yeah, what you thought was a little spark plug wire was a really long spark plug wire.
Yeah, right?
Cool. We got spark plugs too. Now these are AC Delco, same thing, the OE spec'd out plug. It's got a copper core. We're making a lot of performance, a lot of heat, so that copper is going to wick the heat out of the plug. It's got the perfect heat range for the engineered, design. Plus, it's a double platinum. It's going to last. It's going to, resist to all the erosion and whatnot in there. And of course, we got the new coils. So, since we're done playing around, we'll tag team this thing and we'll get it all finished off in no time. See if we've got rid of that dead cylinder.
Exactly.
All right, let's get on, man. Yeah, that sounds good, Willie, man. That thing is smooth as could be. All right, we got rid of our dead cylinder. The engine part's running great. We're ready to go hit the streets, except we got a whole lot of cool suspension mods coming, so stick around.
I'm working on an old project and keep getting held up by rusted nuts and bolts. Do you have any tricks? When you start tearing apart an old project, use CRC's freeze-off. It will break loose any amount of rust, no matter how tough the job, and here's how it works. Spray freeze-off on the rusted nut or bolt, and it immediately drops the temperature of the area in direct contact with the spray. This freeze shock action cracks the rust for deeper penetration and faster removal of the rusted part. The lubricating film in freeze-off also displaces water to prevent corrosion in the future. This tip is brought to you by CRC Industries, makers of Brake Clean, the #1 brake parts cleaner.
All right, now that we got our engine just running tip-top, this thing is ready to start screaming down the road, but we've got to have a little patience because we got a lot of killer upgrades we want to do to the bottom side.
Yeah, look at this kit. It looks kind of intimidating, but believe it or not, this is one finely tuned suspension upgrade that you could do in your own driveway with some jack stands and some hand tools, all right? Now, a lot of these things look familiar. You've probably seen them before in a lot of suspension upgrade kits, right? You got upper and lower control arms. You got the sway bar to help with the body roll. But as you really get into this kit from BMR, you'll see some really unbelievable advantages. Yeah. For example, we have this cross member that bolts on to the back of the front part of the unibody. All right, you have subframe connectors. It's going to help with a lot of that chassis flex that is sort of common in a lot of unibody cars.
Yeah, now this isn't new designs, but it's a really great integration of some of the best suspension components out there to give you exactly what you want to do to control that rear end. But it can be a little bit confusing, so we're going to back up and we're going to start from the very beginning on sort of a little bit of suspension 101, so it makes a little bit of sense to you.
All right.
Now, if I use this as my axle, right, I got my center section here. Well, if I just have it sitting there, there's nothing controlling motion, whether it's rolling, you know, pinion angle, side to side. Yeah. So I'm going to start somewhere.
And the deal is, you got to control this guy and keep it located on every plane.
Yeah, attached to the car, doing what I want it to do. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to get rid of the leaf springs, and we're going to go to a lower control arm. So I'm going to slide the axle tube over here, clamp it down. I got one on that side. And if I pivot on the front, where Willie's hand is, right, now I'm going to swing through an arc. I've got some amount of control, but I can still go side to side. There's nothing holding me there, right? And with the amount of torque that's going through this axle, whether it's from the engine or the tires when you're braking, right, the axle's wanting to rotate forward and backwards. The pinion angle's wanting to go all over the place. So we've got to add another element of control, the torque arm.
Right, and the torque arm, especially when you get one this beefy, is going to help control all that axle wrap. So what happens if you get on the rear end, right, it wants to lift up, it wants to do this.
Right, so the nose of your rear end is going up and down.
Right, but since we have it tied to the unibody with this cross member that comes with the BMR kit, we can control a lot of that. Same way with the braking, it wants to dive down, right? Well, it's tied into the frame and therefore eliminates a lot of that axle wrap and yet another function of the leaf spring.
Yeah. So now we've got all the linkage we really need to control the motion up and down, right? And the rotation of the axle, so we're pretty close, except for now we got side to side. Now a common component is a Panhard bar, but in this case we're going to use something that's been around for quite a long time, a Watts link. Now Watts link is really cool. Let's get it set up so you can actually see it work, and then we can explain what it's doing. Awesome. All right. Now here's your Watts link. Now obviously you've got a link to that side and a link to this side, and I can't move this from side to side. It's controlling the motion of the axle from left to right. And you've got this really simple linkage here, and it's basically just, you know, allowing a little bit of degree of freedom, a little bit of adjustment or whatever, but it's controlling all of the motion side to side. Now a lot of cars use a Panhard bar. Now Panhard bar just, it's a link from, you know, one side of the car to one side of the axle, and it's a link that swings, but unfortunately as it swings through an arc, the axle's moving one direction. As it swings down the other way, it's moving back and forth. So your rear end isn't quite as centered as you'd like it to be, and it's moving back and forth with your suspension travel. So this is the perfect way of keeping everything exactly where you want it, right, completely lined up through whatever suspension travel you want. And what's neat about it is it's got a lot of adjustability. You can move the Watts link up and down and effectively change your roll center of the back half of the car, which can do a lot of things for dynamics when you really get into suspension tuning.
Perfect for the guy that wants to go out one day drag racing and go do an autocross course the next day.
Yeah.
And the great thing about it here is you got, whether it's the watch link, trailing arms, torque bar, you got multiple systems controlling one plane individually, whereas a leaf spring car, you got one thing trying to control multiple systems, multiple planes.
And none of them very good.
No.
That's why they always feel sloppy and mushy and not quite planted and not the best traction and all that stuff.
Yeah, so, right?
Well, this is a really cool system. It's going to be pretty basic, a lot of bolting on. So why don't we get on it so we can go out there and have some fun. Today's Tech Tip is all about checking for worn shocks and struts. KYB's come up with a great, three-step system for your pros and your technicians. It's called stop, squat, and roll. Now your first step, stop. You want to go about 5 miles an hour because it's nice and safe. You don't have to worry about flying off the road or wrecking a car, especially if there's suspension problems. So make sure your passenger's got a nice full cup of coffee, and just when they go for a sip, hammer on the brakes and watch the front of that car and the back of the car and see if you get too much squatting and too much lifting. And then you're going to watch how it settles out. If you get too many oscillations, more than about one cycle of down and up, you've probably got worn shocks and struts. Now you can do the same thing on acceleration from a stop. Kind of give it some gas and watch how much it squats, because if you get too much squat and too much motion, you're going to lose critical traction. Now the third part is the roll. So do about 5 miles an hour again, and you're going to go a quarter turn one way, quarter turn the other way, and back straight. Now if your car doesn't follow you pretty precisely and responsively, you've probably got too much suspension motion, not enough control to carry the body with you and to do those maneuvers. So once again, you've probably got worn parts. Now a great tip for a technician, do this test on any vehicle that comes in the shop, because you never know, preventative is always good versus finding out a problem too late. Now hopefully that helps you. The Kyb Shocks, they're really great for bringing back that OE ride and handling quality that you got when you first bought your car, and you can pick them up at Federated Auto Parts.
When you store your projects away for a while, there are certain things you need to do in the engines to make sure they're ready to go when the weather looks good again. We talk about using Z-Max Micro Lubricant in our engines every 6 months or 6,000 miles to improve performance and extend engine life. But what about when your engines aren't running? Moisture is your biggest enemy because it attacks the metal and forms rust. By pouring Z-Max in your engine before you put it away, it will keep a constant layer of lubrication over those metal parts so moisture can't form to the metal and cause rust. So here's how you do it. Before parking the project in the garage, first do a complete oil change with a new filter. Then add 12 ounces of Z-Max to your engine oil and get it up to operating temperatures for about 15 minutes. What that will do is allow the engine to heat up and cool down, and it's these heating and cooling cycles that allow Z-Max to soak into the metal and give the engine a protective film that can repel rust. It's the microlubricant properties of Z-Max that allows it to soak into the metal and go places where ordinary oil just can't go. Some people might not realize that metal is porous, so as it heats up, those pores open up, and Z-Max can get in and actually lubricate your engine from the inside out. So whether it's on the road or in the garage, Z-Max is always working. This tip is brought to you by Z-Max. Performance you can feel.
Hey, welcome back. All right, we're still underneath our car in a pretty impressive suspension upgrade for our '69 Camaro. Come here, let me show you all this stuff. Let me show you what we've done. We've been busy. All right, so first this cross member goes in the back part of the front part of the unibody, okay? Now if you follow along, you got some Delrin bushings here, big polyurethane bushing here, so it absorbs a lot of that gear vibration you're gonna get from the rear end. Another Delrin bushing in here, so when that rear end is slapping side to side, this whole torque arm can pivot. Remember, you got multiple things doing one item, whereas you had leaf springs on this car, you had one item trying to do multiple things. Up here we have our trailing arms on, right? So that's going to keep the rear end controlled on this plane. And you can see Kev's doing the coilovers right now. And remember, this platform is available for all kinds of Gen 1 and Gen 2 Camaros, all the way up until 1981. And also, if you have a Nova, you can get the same kit, 68 through 74 Nova. It's BMR suspension. And if you got smoked by a Nova, I got to tell you, that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, as you can see, we've got jacks holding up the rear end right now, but now we've got our coilovers bolted on. You know, we'll have to tighten everything up. But now we're starting to really control this rear end. You just got to do this Watts link. And what's nice is you got little heim joints everywhere, so I'm going to spin this 1 or 2 more times.
And everything on this, ride height, you got coilovers, everything's super adjustable on this entire setup.
All right, so that's starting to look pretty good. We're ready to start basically zipping it down, nut bolt check, and then keep on moving forward. Hey, welcome back. We got the back end of this thing really ready to go rolling. Willie's getting the front end parts put together, a couple of tools. I'm gonna do a quick oil change. And if I can keep from totally making a mess of myself, we're gonna swap out the filter. We got an AC Delco filter. Now, most of you guys, if you've done one of these on the LS engines, you're familiar with the classic PF46 filter. And they make a new filter too, it's the PF46E, which stands for E-Core. Now it's funny, I've seen a lot of chatter on the internet about, oh, the smaller filter isn't quite as good as the bigger filter. But what's kind of funny is the smaller filter is the latest technology in filter designs. It's got a nylon molded core, which actually is about 50% stronger than some of the steel cores. It's got no seams in it, so it can't burst. And this guy's about ready to drop on myself. It's got a million threads on it. There we go. All right. Well, this guy also has the same capacity, the same burst pressure ratings. It can do the same filtering, and the way it's made, even though it's smaller, it has the same sort of filter element and exposure, you know, so it's going to do everything the big one can, and especially, you know, in tight applications where you need the space, this guy can really come in handy. You know, on a swap like this, we can get to this filter, but maybe your LS swap isn't quite as friendly.
Oh, beep, beep, beep. Bro, check it out, I'm loaded up.
Nice.
All right. So I finished assembling and getting all of our stuff together for the front half of the 69 Camaro. And I got to tell you, man, when these guys put this kit together, they didn't just want to beat you, dude. They wanted to pummel you. Look at this, man. Look at the sway bar, just to show you. 11/16 boxing.
Oh, is that a sway bar? I thought that was like a coat hanger going through there, you know?
All the way around that factory sway bar. Look at this. All right, let me show you a little bit about what we got, okay? Upper and lower control arms, okay? This is the upper, this is the lower. It's gonna give you 2 additional degrees of caster, a benefit for sure. The longer ball joint here is gonna improve that camber curve, and you know about this beefy sway bar. So when this thing gets installed on this car, this thing is gonna handle like you would not believe. So we're gonna get after the front end and make this thing just chew cars up in the corners.
All right, well, let me get this oil change out of the way. Let's start stripping these parts down. But in the meantime, we're going to take a break.
For more information about anything you've seen on today's show, check out speed.com or visit TwoGuysGarage.com.
Hey, welcome back to the break room. And we got a really cool 3-in-1 sheet metal machine from Woodward Fab.
Yeah, you talk about handy. This thing will come in super handy. Whether you're doing little brackets, you install stereos, check this thing out, okay? So first down here, we have a shear. If you need to shear something, corners.
Slide that in there and cut it to whatever size you want real quick.
Yeah, and up here, we can bend.
Yep.
I'll give you a little bend here, Kev.
There we go. Check out how easy that is. And what's neat about it, if I can get my part out, is these fingers can come out. So now you can slide this in this way and fold up the other side to make a box.
And up here, just when you thought it was done, we have a 3-pin roll machine.
So that'll roll your sheet metal into any kind of radius you want. Just change the adjustment screws so you can get a big sweep or a small tight radius. So whatever you're working on, whether you need little patch panels, little brackets, you're doing stereo installs, piece of equipment like this set in a corner always comes in handy.
Comes in really handy. The 3-in-1 sheet metal machine from Woodward Fab.
And when you love your cars as much as we do, you want to take care of them, especially during that important engine break-in period. Now from Spectral Performance Oils, really good performance break-in lubrication.
Yeah, it's loaded up with zinc and phosphorus. So when it gets under heat and load, it's gonna have that sacrificial film so you don't have that friction. It allows the molecules to roll over each other. It gives you nice protection, especially in that critical break-in period when you can wipe out a cam in an instant.
Yeah, now this is the Spectral flat tappet break-in oil. Now what's great about it is, you know, there's those real high contact pressures. So whether you've got an Italian exotic, a muscle car, an old Packard, this is what you want to put in that engine when you go to fire it up for that first time. That ZDDP will chemically bond to the metals, give you that nice protective layer. Again, this is from Spectral Performance Oils.
It's their flat tappet break-in oil. Okay, next up from our friends at ARP, it's the Ford Coyote Fastener Kit. And when you think aftermarket performance, you got to think ARP.
Yeah, you already know the name, you already know the brand, you've probably used them. They're probably already in your connecting rod somewhere on some engine you got. But now they've got kits for the Coyotes, and there's different model changes, so they've got the kit for you, whether it's your head bolts or head studs, your main studs, your damper bolts. Now, these head studs are made ARP 2000 material, 220,000 PSI strength.
Right.
Unbelievable. And
you never want to reuse your old bolts because they have that torque to yield, they'll stretch. And then when you're doing boosted applications, nitrous, or just a performance upgrade, you really want that extra strength.
Check them out, the Coyote 5-liter kits. They've got every variety for any model year changes. Give them a shout, they'll hook you up.
Yeah. Hey, check it out, bro. Another horse in the stable.
Nice, a new ride. Cool.
Yeah. Scoop this up for hardly anything. It's got kind of a rough chop on it. It's a 1950 Chevy truck, so you know I'm going to be all up in these catalogs.
Oh, yeah, man.
All right.
Especially this one, I see it's got dirty paw prints all over it, man. This is your model year right here.
Yes, indeed.
This is Classic Parts of America. They've got 6 different catalogs just for Chevy trucks. 1947 all the way up to 1998.
Yeah,
man.
Everything you could possibly need. They're in the Midwest, so you get your parts within 1 to 3 business days. And like you said, man, everything you could want, need, desire is stuffed into these catalogs and online.
They've been in business for over 30 plus years, so you know they've collected everything you could ever think of and then some.
I need that. I need that. Definitely need those.
Well, check them out. You can get your free catalog or go online.
Yep.
Classic Parts of America. I know this guy's going to be shopping. Every page on here is going to be dog-eared with, this is what I want, this is what I want. Well, maybe we'll get it in here and hop that sucker up like we did that Camaro today.
Yeah, man.
That was a lot of fun.
Now, that is a ride. You got to love an old school car that handles like a new school. BMR did a great job with their suspension, had fun putting it on. We're out of time, and you know what that means, right?
Exactly what that means.
Yes.
More miles, more burnouts, several stops at the gas station. We got to go. We're out of time. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it.
All right, take care.